because we all know sebagai mahasiswa tingkat akhir, it's okay ya, I will be like Jaksel. Salah satu permasalahan dan kegalauan terbesar adalah mengenai metodologi penelitian. So this is our topic for today, and it's very fortunate for us to have this webinar. So we will start our webinar for this morning, start by singing our national anthem, dan nanti sesudah itu akan dibuka dengan doa oleh mahasiswa dari Universitas Pasir Pangarayan, dan kami persilakan untuk bersiap. Kami himbau juga kepada seluruh peserta webinar agar dapat menutup mic selama acara ini. Apabila ada pertanyaan atau komentar boleh disampaikan melalui kolom chat, dan juga kami mohon untuk semua bisa membuat nama, merename nama dengan di depan PBI, kemudian untuk STKIP Kusuma Negara, STKIP KN, dan untuk rekan-rekan Bapak Ibu juga dari Universitas Pasir Pangarayan juga dengan kode UPP. Dengan demikian kita bisa dapat saling mengenal dengan lebih baik. Dan kami juga mohon kerjasamanya apabila memungkinkan untuk bisa menyalakan kamera. Please turn on your camera so we can all see your beautiful faces, your wajah yang bersemangat ya pagi ini, sehingga dari webinar ini kita juga bisa mendapat kenalan ya. Terima kasih untuk rekan-rekan, teman-teman, Bapak Ibu yang sudah menyalakan kameranya. Baik, mari kita mulai dengan menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya.
Guys, izin suaranya belum terdengar.
Bangsa dan tanah air, marilah kita berseru. Baik, sebagai doa buka akan dibacakan oleh Septian Novialdo, mahasiswa dari Universitas Pasir Pangarayan. Kami persilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks for time. Let us pray to Allah and our God so that this event will be success. Na'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma barik lana fil majalis. Allahumma barik lana fi syahri Ramadan. Allahumma a'inna ala zikrika wa syukrika wa husni ibadatik. Rabbana la tu'ahizana in nasina aw akhtana. Rabbana wa la tahmil alaina isran kama hamaltahu ala alladhina min qablina. Rabbana wa la tuhammilna ma la taqata lana bih. Wa'fu anna waghfir lana warhamna anta maulana fansurna 'alal qaumil kafirin. Allahumma inna nas'aluka salamatan fid din wad dunya wal akhirah wa ziyatan fil ilmi wa barakatan fil rizqi wa taubatan qabbal maut wa rahmatan indal maut wa maghfiratan ba'dal maut. Allahumma hawwin 'alaina fi syaqaratil maut wan najata minan nar wal afwa 'indal hisab. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih kepada Saudara Septian. Dan kini kita akan mendengarkan welcoming speech. Untuk kesempatan yang pertama, kami persilahkan kepada Kepala Program Studi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris dari Universitas Pasir Pangarayan, Dr. Pipit Rahayu, MPD. Ma'am Pipit, this time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Excellencies, the Head of STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta, Dr. Herinto Sidik Iriansah MSI, along with the ranks, the Vice Head of Students Affairs STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta, Mr. Romdani MPD, the Honorable the Head of English Department STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta, Ibu Dr. Vera Yulia Harmayanti MPD, all distinguished English lecturers and students, STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta, all distinguished English lecturers and students, University of Pasir Pengarayan Riau. Good morning. My name is Pipit Rahayu, the head of English Department, Universitas Pasir Pengarayan, and it is my great pleasure to have welcoming speech in front of all of you in this English webinar seminar series on research methodology this Friday morning, April 8, 2022. First of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to this department STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta for conducting our first event in the beginning of this year through virtual webinar today. This event is one of the concrete program as the result of our agreement of partnerships in the previous times, since both institutions, Universitas Pasir Pengarayan and STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta, signed the MOU for several part of collaborations in education. English departments, Universitas Pasir Pengarayan, we are pleased to welcome the collaborations from many institutions and higher education, of course, in order to strengthen and exchange knowledge and information in the field of English language teachings. And since departments, Universitas Pasir Pengarayan, some hibah. First one is hibah MBKM from Kemenristek Dikti. 2021, we got hibah PKKM, Program Kompetisi Kampus Merdeka, and Alhamdulillah for this year, in 2022, English Department Universitas Pasir Pengarayan is one of the big three of English Department in Indonesia, along with Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta and Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, if I'm not mistaken, got hibah PKKM again this year. So of course, it is needed for us to have many collaborations and partnerships for developing the Campus Merdeka program this year. Then for all English students from both institutions, congratulations. Both of you lucky to have this virtual seminar of research methodology, and please ask many questions and focus to the seminar, because I do believe this seminar will influence and improve your prior knowledge and understanding in doing the research. You will know a lot of numbers of the most important things in qualitative and quantitative research, if I'm not mistaken, as the topic of this seminar today. Last but not least, I want to extend my deepest gratitude and appreciations to the committee, of course, and all English lecturers and students from STKIP Kusuma Negara Jakarta to set up virtual webinars and make this great event possible. Finally, I thank you all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully this event is not one and the only event that we have, that it will be followed by a very fantastic event for both English department in the futures. Wish everyone enjoy this webinar. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Ma'am Pipit, for the welcoming speech. And for next, we will hear the welcoming speech from the head of English Department of STKIP Kusuma Negara, Dr. Vera Yulia Harmayanti, MPD. Ms. Vera, this time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Morning for everyone. Yeah, I hope this will be fine for today for all us. And the first one, thank you to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, who has given us the mercy and blessing of the health condition. So with the permission, we can gather here together. And actually, I express my deepest gratitude for the present here, the Honorable Head of STKIP Kusuma Negara, Bapak Dr. Haji Herinto Sidik Riansa, MSc, who always provide support for our activities in PBI's program. Next, the Head of English Study Program for UPP, or Universitas Pasir Pengarayan, Dr. Pipit Rahayu, MPD, that I'm proud of her, especially on academic achievement for graduation of doctoral programs recently. Congratulations, Ms. Pipit. And for the third one, the great keynote speakers, Dr. Umi Rasida, MPD from UPP, and Budanti Pujiati, MMM, who have been willing to fill this event and share their experiences in research. And for the fourth, international moderators, Ibu Sari Astuti, MPD, and Ibu Kokom Nurjana, MPD, ready to guide the question and answer session later today. The great team that has prepared for this event, Bapak Wisnu Kala, Kusumajati MPD, who has supported to Grace Hambing and also Septiano Fialdo as full representative from STKIP Kusumanegara and UPP. And for all the last one, all of lecturers as for from PBI UPP and STKIP Kusumanegara on the appropriate time with their full expression. Thank you so much for coming here. Actually, when this event, which has been packaged in the form of a webinar, is a form of a research development to the English education study program field, where we can set a passion in research that becoming a trend in campus environment, of course, like as from PBI STKIP Kusumanegara and also PBI UPP Riau, focus on the English teaching research. When we are talking about research in current time, of course, the research in teaching English as a best board multidisciplinary that have on a wide range of topics. We're not talking about the topic, of course, there are many topics in the field of the teaching English that we can continue to explore. And it needs the significant strategy to make those concerned with this language teaching and learning literatures around the world. For the last one, through the limited time, through this webinar, we hope this webinar will give so many benefits for us, but of PBI, STKIP Kusumanegara, and PBI UPP Riau will continue to develop cooperation for many fields in a strong team together. Thank you, participant here. And for the last one, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Happy to join this webinar.
Thank you, Ms. Vera. And for next, we will hear the welcoming speech from the head of STKIP Kusumanegara, Bapak Dr. Haji Herinto Sidik Iriansa, MSI. Pak Herinto, the time is yours.
Terima kasih, Grace. Luar biasa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Suara saya bisa didengar dengan baik?
Jelas, Pak.
Ya, alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrofil anbiya'i wa mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wasallam. Yang saya hormati para wakil ketua STKIP Kusumanegara yang hadir dalam kesempatan ini. Yang saya hormati dalam hormat pada Bapak Rektor melalui UPPIT, Kapolri UPPIT Rahayu MPD, Dr. Dalam hormat buat Pak Rektor dan segenap jajaran pimpinan di UPP Riau. Yang saya hormati Kapolri Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, STKIP Kusumanegara, Prodi PBI, Pak Wisnu Kala Kaljati, narasumber kehormatan Ibu Pipit dari PP, para pendamping dan moderator, Pokom, dan Ibu Sari MPD, mahasiswa baik UPP maupun STKIP, para dosen yang mengawali sambutan ini. Marilah bersama-sama kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Allah. Pada pagi hari ini kita bisa mengikuti kegiatan yang sangat baik dan penting ini, yaitu virtual webinar kolaborasi antara UPP dan STKIP Kusumanegara, menindaklanjuti MOU yang telah kita ciptakan bersama dengan Bapak Rektor beberapa bulan. Tindak lanjut realisasi kerja. Semoga kedepannya bisa dilakukan lebih lebar lagi, lebih luas lagi, sehingga bisa sinergi yang lebih baik ke depannya. Salam buat Pak Rektor. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, tentunya webinar kali ini STKIP Kusumanegara, salah satu prodinya adalah prodi PBI, dan 5 prodi yang lainnya yaitu matematika, pendidikan PPKN, PGSD, PAUD dan POR. Kami masih konsisten bahwa dalam penuntasan studi di STKIP Kusumanegara itu ditutup dengan membuat karya ilmiah yaitu skripsi. Insya Allah dengan kegiatan webinar pada hari ini akan menambah wawasan khususnya teman-teman mahasiswa dan juga menambah wawasan juga para dosen yang akan update metodologinya, sehingga nantinya dalam penyelesaian studi akhir di STKIP Kusuma Negara, khususnya prodi PPI, jelas lulus tepat waktu lancar. Dan yang berikutnya saya menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih kepada ketua prodi, yaitu prodi kepala prodi PP maupun yang didukung dosen dan mahasiswa tentunya atas acara ini, dan saya berharap bisa ditingkatkan kegiatan yang datang. Selamat melaksanakan webinar. Semoga Allah SWT senantiasa membimbing kita semua dalam aktivitas pendidikan. Demikian, mohon maaf dan dimaklumi dalam penyampaian ini apabila. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih Bapak Herito untuk kata sambutannya. And now we will enter our main topic for today. Untuk hari ini kita akan membahas beberapa, hanya dua ya. Mungkin ada banyak pertanyaan dari para mahasiswa tingkat akhir mengenai berbagai macam metodologi dalam penelitian. But for today, our topic on the research of methodology is only for two, which are the first one is library research, the second one is case study. As someone says, some wise man says, learning is a never-ending journey. Itu adalah perjalanan seumur hidup. Belajar itu tidak akan pernah berakhir. So that's why we are here learning again. Walaupun kita sudah pernah mendengar, kita mahasiswa sudah pernah belajar, but we never stop learning. That's why in this great opportunity, we will enter our first session of webinar on library research. Untuk kesempatan pertama ini kami persilahkan untuk moderator Miss Kokom Nurjan.
Suara saya terdengar jelas ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering our main session, which discuss about research in English language teaching. As we know, the discussion will be delivered by two outstanding speaker from STKIP Kusuma Negara, Ibu Danti Pujiati M. Hum, and from Pasir Pangarayan University Riau, Ibu Dr. Umi Rashidah MPD. And now, first presentation, we'll talk about the library research. Before getting some insight of what actually library research is, how to conduct library research, and maybe the advantages or benefits from this approach, I would like to tell a short biography of Ibu Danti Pujianti M. Hum as first speaker. Ibu Danti Pujianti M. Hum is lecturer in English Education Department is STKIP Kusuma Negara. She has more than 50 years experience of teaching English at Faculty of Adab and Humanities in Islamic State University. She was the head of language lab in STKIP Kusuma Negara. And Ibu Danti obtained bachelor degree in Sanata Dharma University Yogyakarta and master degree in University of Indonesia. Her research interests are in the field of translation, mobile assisted learning, and English language teaching. Okay, without further ado, let's give the warm welcome to Ibu Danti Pujianti M. Hum. Morning, Ibu Danti. Ibu Danti, belum di-unmute speakernya.
Morning, all of you. Morning, Pak Herinto, Bu Pipit, Bu Vera, Pak Wisnu, Pak Romdani. Very good morning to you all.
Okay, Bu Danti, the time is yours to present library research, ya.
Oh yeah, okay. First of all, I would like to give my presentation, I think in Bahasa Indonesia, ya. But if it is necessary, I could also present in English. It's better for us to use Bahasa Indonesia. First of all, I would like to give my permission to Ibu Kaprodi, and then also all of you, yeah. Okay, I would like to share my screen. Okay, is that clear, Kokom?
Clear.
Okay, ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, teman-teman semua. dan juga yang para dosen dari STKIP Kusuma Negara dan dari Universitas Pasir Pangairan. Izinkan kali dari research. Nah, apa yang disebut dengan library research, yaitu yang pertama adalah ini bukan penelitian lapangan. Kenapa bukan penelitian lapangan? Karena data yang akan dianalisis itu tidak berasal dari lapangan, melainkan dari sumber yang memang sudah tersedia, seperti nilai rapot peserta didik, kemudian nilai hasil studi mahasiswa, atau laporan penelitian ya mengenai keberhasilan suatu strategi belajar dalam pembelajaran bahasa Inggris. Selanjutnya yang kedua adalah mengenai library research ini juga adalah penelitian kualitatif. Kenapa disebut kualitatif? Karena ini bersifat mendeskripsikan suatu objek sebagai sesuatu yang dinamis, hasil konstruksi pemikiran dan interpretasi dari fenomena. Kemudian selanjutnya adalah data yang dipakai dalam penelitian library research ini adalah sumber yang tertulis. Dengan perkembangan zaman, bisa juga ini menjadi sumber yang tidak tertulis. Nah, sumber yang tertulis ini itu adalah catatan yang terdokumentasi.
Mohon izin Ibu Danti. Halo, apa bisa mendengar suara saya?
Ya, lebih banyak. Iya, Bu.
Punten, ini slide-nya belum terlihat ya Bu Danti?
Oh, tadi sudah ya?
Ya, belum terlihat.
Oh, belum.
Ya.
Saya pikir sudah ya, teman-teman. Mohon maaf sebentar ya. Grace bisa bantu saya ya? Saya sudah ini.
Bu Danti bisa dijadikan sebagai host.
Kalau begitu saya izin yang share ya Bu Danti.
Iya, oke, ya. Mohon maaf ya, ini romantika dari pembelajaran jarak jauh atau webinar. Biasanya memang ada teknis ya. Oke, saya ulangi teman-teman semua. Jadi library research itu memang bukan penelitian lapangan ya, karena data yang kita perlukan itu memang data yang sudah tersedia gitu ya. Tadi sudah saya sampaikan di dalam pembelajaran bahasa Inggris. Selanjutnya adalah penelitian library research itu adalah kualitatif. Kenapa disebut dengan kualitatif? Karena dia mendeskripsikan suatu objek sebagai sesuatu yang dinamis, hasil konstruksi ya, pemikiran dan interpretasi dari fenomena yang kita amati. Kemudian yang ciri ketiga adalah data dari sumber tertulis ataupun juga tidak tertulis ya, karena perkembangan zaman gitu ya, sumber yang tidak tertulis pun juga bisa dijadikan sebagai library research. Tentu saja sumber tertulis ini adalah yang terdokumentasi dengan baik, misalnya buku. Buku juga bisa berupa buku dalam bentuk fisik maupun buku dalam bentuk elektronik. Kemudian ada artikel karya ilmiah ya, baik yang sudah saat ini iklan lebih banyak ada di internet ya. Jadi ketika kita melihat sebuah YouTube kemudian mau nggak mau, nah iklan itu muncul seperti itu ya. Nah itu juga bisa kita jadikan sebagai kajian dalam library research. Kemudian ada diary ya. Kalau zaman dahulu ya, atau mungkin masih sekarang juga orang menulis diary, tapi memang medianya yang berbeda. Dulu medianya adalah buku, nah sekarang medianya itu bisa masuk ke dalam ranah digital. Selanjutnya ada rekaman. Nah, rekaman ini juga bisa berupa sumber-sumber yang direkam secara lisan. Nah, nanti kita transkrip ya, kemudian hasil transkripnya itulah yang kita jadikan sebagai kajian dari library research. Oke, next slide please, Grace. Ya. Kemudian yang berikutnya adalah ciri-ciri library research yang dengan naskah ya, atau dengan dokumen yang sedang diteliti sebagai kajian. Dengan kata lain, peneliti itu berinteraktif dengan naskah. Yang berikutnya adalah data adalah siap pakai. atau kita kenal dengan istilah ready made gitu ya. Karena peneliti tidak perlu pergi kemana-mana, data itu sudah siap pakai untuk dianalisis gitu ya. Yang berikutnya adalah data berupa sumber sekunder. Kenapa disebut dengan sumber sekunder? Maksudnya adalah peneliti mendapatkan data tersebut dari tangan kedua. Makanya disebut sekunder. Bukan data orisinal dari tangan pertama. Karena datanya memang sudah ada ya, sudah jadi. Begitu. Nah, ciri yang terakhir adalah library research ini tidak dibatasi oleh ruang dan waktu. Artinya, informasi atau data yang dihadapi oleh peneliti itu bersifat statis dan tetap. Jadi kita bisa melakukannya itu sesuai dengan itu adalah begitu. Jadi lebih sedikit menguntungkan ya untuk library. Nah, alasan yang ini tidak dibatasi oleh ruang dan waktu. Selanjutnya, Grace. Nah, macam-macam library research. Yang pertama, kita semua mengenal ya dengan foto ini, beliau adalah Ki Hajar Dewantara sebagai atau Dewantoro ya kalau dalam bahasa Jawa, itu merupakan tokoh pendidik nasional. Nah, di sana yang kita teliti itu adalah kajian pemikiran dari tokoh tersebut. Misalnya, kita melihat sumbangsih pemikiran dari tokoh Ki Hajar terhadap pendidikan. Pendidikan yang bagaimana? Pendidikan yang berkarakter. Nah, itulah yang kita teliti. Jadi, penekanannya adalah mengenai kajian dari pemikiran atau pandangan seorang tokoh. Kemudian, kalau kita hubungkan dengan pendidikan bahasa Inggris, bagaimana? Nah, saya ambil contoh ya, itu ada Peter Newmark. Nah, beliau adalah bapak atau kita bisa bilang sebagai tokoh yang sangat terkenal di dalam dunia penerjemahan. Setiap ada studi penerjemahan, pasti ya, atau sebagian besar itu akan mengutip daripada pendapatnya Peter Newmark ini. Nah, salah satu kajiannya yang terkenal itu adalah mengenai cultural words atau kata-kata yang bermakna budaya di dalam penerjemahan. Begitu ya. Atau ada juga nanti Mona Baker. Nah, kita melihat pemikiran dari Mona Baker mengenai cultural words atau cultural studies. Oke, nah itu tentang pemikiran seorang tokoh atau pandangan dari tokoh yang bisa dijadikan ke dalam penelitian library research. Yang berikutnya adalah mengenai gambar yang kedua ya, teman-teman semua. Di sana ada seorang anak dan seorang ibu gitu ya. Atau seorang ibu ini juga berfungsi sebagai guru. Nah, di sini kita bisa mengkaitkan dengan pembelajaran dalam bahasa Inggris. Apakah keberhasilan, misalnya ya, apakah keberhasilan metode drilling tentang keefektifan sebuah metode drilling melalui kajian. Berikutnya adalah gambar yang ketiga. Teman-teman semua di sana bisa melihat ada buku ya atau textbook Pathway to English ya. Ini untuk tingkat SMA ya. Nah, apa sih yang kita kaji di dalam analisis textbook ini? Yang pertama adalah kita bisa mengevaluasi atau mengukur relevansi mata pelajaran bahasa Inggris dengan perkembangan yang mutakhir. Misalnya, di dalam yang digunakan itu sudah autentik atau belum. Kemudian kita lihat lagi, apakah reading task-nya atau tugas dari reading tersebut sudah mampukah untuk meningkatkan critical thinking dari peserta didik. Atau reading task tersebut itu memang komunikatif, artinya ekspresi atau ungkapan di dalam bahasa Inggris itu bisa digunakan di dalam komunikasi. Nah, kemudian kita juga bisa melihat apakah textbook ini dilengkapi oleh audio untuk serta Nah, yang terakhir adalah kajian kurikulum. Di sini teman-teman bisa melihat gambar yang ada tulisannya Merdeka Mengajar. Jadi, library research yang bisa kita lakukan terhadap kurikulum ini adalah kita melakukan telaah atau melakukan analisis terhadap pengajaran bahasa Inggris di sekolah. Ya, bisa di sekolah SD, SMP, atau SMA. Nah, kita melihat kurikulum Merdeka Belajar ini relevansinya dengan progres kemajuan pengajaran bahasa Inggris gitu ya. Kita lihat dari materinya yang esensial, kemudian memberikan keleluasaan kepada guru untuk menggunakan berbagai macam perangkat ajar yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan dan karakter daripada peserta didik. Serta kurikulum Merdeka Mengajar ini juga memberi kebebasan juga kepada para guru untuk menggunakan aplikasi ya, untuk menggunakan aplikasi. Selanjutnya adalah kita melihat kepada macam-macam. Oke, mohon maaf Grace, slide sebelumnya. Oke, ya. Selanjutnya, setelah kita mengetahui macam-macam dari library research ya, kita sekarang melihat kepada tujuan dari menggunakan library research dapat kemudian yang kedua adalah library research ini untuk penelitian yang bersifat studi kasus atau juga penelitian awal atau preliminary research. Nah, penelitian awal ini bisa digunakan dengan library research. Kemudian tujuan yang ketiga adalah data pustaka menjawab pertanyaan penelitiannya. Artinya ini kurang lebih sama dengan yang pertama ya. Jadi pertanyaan penelitian itu melalui data pustaka. Bagaimana dengan prosedur library research ya? Nah, ketika kita sudah tertarik untuk melakukan penelitian library research ya, yang pertama adalah kita menentukan kata kunci atau subjek ya. Jadi kalau kata kunci itu adalah berupa kata, sementara kalau subjek itu dia berupa frase, berupa ekspresi atau berupa ungkapan atau juga bisa istilah. Yang berikutnya adalah kita mencari kata kunci dan subjek tersebut ke dalam buku maupun ke dalam artikel ilmiah. Nah, setelah ditemukan, kita lebih dalam lagi mencari kutipan ya dan sumber ilmiah yang ada di dalam artikel ilmiah tersebut atau buku. Setelah kita melihat kutipan ya, biasanya kan kutipan itu bisa endnote atau bisa footnote gitu ya. Terus kita melihat lebih jauh lagi ke bibliografi. Nah, bibliografi itu di sana ada sejumlah informasi ya mengenai kutipan itu berasal. Nah, kita telusuri. Kemudian kita juga bisa mengontak secara verbal ataupun secara tertulis melalui email begitu untuk memastikan mengenai kata kunci atau subjek yang sedang kita teliti. Selanjutnya, ketika kita sudah melakukan penjelajahan sistematis, ini adalah langkah yang terakhir, yaitu langkah yang ke-6. Apa itu yang dimaksud dengan penjelajah sistematis? Nah, biasanya kita ini akan berada di sebuah perpustakaan yang real ya, kemudian kita melihat katalog yang ada di sana gitu ya, sumber-sumber kita bisa bertanya kepada pustakawan mengenai kata kunci atau subjek yang kita teliti ini sudah sampai mana perkembangannya, sudah sampai di mana update-nya, begitu. Itu mengenai prosedur library research. Selanjutnya, ini adalah mengenai research metodologi dalam library research. Yang pertama tentu saja kita mengumpulkan data ya, kemudian data tersebut kita baca ya, kemudian kita catat, kita taking notes tadi ya, apa kata kuncinya, apa subjeknya, begitu. Nah, selanjutnya kita mengolah data tersebut, kemudian juga kita melakukan analisis. Nah, untuk apa semua ini?
Halo, Ibu Danti.
Sinyal left sebentar, ada gangguan sinyal, Miss.
Oke, maaf sempat terlempar ya tadi ya. Oke, alhamdulillah sudah kembali mendarat. Nah, selanjutnya Oke, kita sudah masuk ke dalam contoh ya, teman-teman semua. Contoh dari library research itu apa sih? Nah, ini saya mengambil dari sebuah jurnal. Jurnal itu diterbitkan oleh Unsyah ya, dari CLA dan masih baru, ini tahun 2021. Nah, yang diteliti adalah mengenai English textbook ya for senior high school students in Indonesia. Apa yang dikaji? Yang dikaji adalah mengenai cultural information embedded in an English textbook ya, pathway to English for SMA or MA grade 11. Jadi dia melihat nih si peneliti ini, ada banyak penelitinya ya, dia meneliti cultural information embedded di dalam buku textbook tersebut, apakah sudah mencukupi ya bagaimana cultural information embedded itu digambarkan. Ternyata di sana ada 14 reading text, kemudian juga ada 20 pictures ya, dan 30 recordings. Jadi sudah ada audionya, dan juga ada 7 cultural awareness text. Jadi dia meneliti sedalam itu ya, teman-teman semua, untuk dilihat bagaimana sih equal information daripada budaya bahasa target dan budaya lokal atau budaya Indonesia. Nah, digambarkan di situ bahwa pictures, recording, sama cultural awareness topics-nya itu lebih memberatkan kepada target cultural information. Artinya lebih banyak budaya bahasa Inggris yang digambarkan di sana. Nah, itu adalah salah satu contoh untuk menganalisa sebuah textbook. Jadi kata kunci atau subjeknya itu adalah cultural information embedded. Begitu ya, teman-teman ya. Oke, kemudian contoh yang berikutnya. Next slide, please. Nah, di sini penelitian yang ditulis oleh Howard and Smith ya, dia menceritakan tentang sejarah. Jadi sejarah mengajarkan bahasa Inggris sebagai bahasa asing dilihat dari perspektif orang Inggris dan juga orang Eropa. Jadi kurang lebih dia melakukan studi pustaka, tapi studi pustakanya ini dia melihat dari dua perspektif yang berbeda. Jadi dari perspektifnya orang Inggris dan sama dari perspektifnya orang Eropa mengenai pembelajaran bahasa Inggris as a foreign language. Jadi hampir sama dengan kita ya. Jadi kalau kita kan bahasa Inggris juga dipertimbangkan sebagai bahasa asing. Begitu. Nah, yang contoh berikutnya adalah dari Anne Sullivan. Teman-teman semua saya percaya tahu ya atau paham siapa sih ini Anne Sullivan ya. Beliau adalah gurunya Helen Keller. Ya, Helen Keller kita tahu bahwa beliau adalah seorang penyandang disabilitas, tapi dengan Anne Sullivan yang luar biasa ya, guru yang benar-benar inspiring gitu ya, tekun dan tabah gitu, sampai dia berhasil mengantarkan Helen Keller yang disabilitas ini untuk menginspirasi banyak orang bahwa dia bisa menjadi orang yang sukses gitu ya, belajar sampai ke perguruan tinggi dan menginspirasi banyak orang bahwa kaum disabilitas juga mampu mendapatkan atau memperoleh pendidikan sampai yang tingkat tinggi. Nah, kita meneliti apanya? Kita meneliti teaching teknik yang digunakan oleh Anne Sullivan itu. Kenapa Helen Keller bisa sampai berhasil? Bisa sampai mau sekolah gitu ya, bisa baca, bisa nulis, termotivasi. Nah, ini yang penting. Jadi di situ kita melihat teaching tekniknya. Sebelum masuk ke konten pembelajarannya, ternyata Anne Sullivan ini dia lebih menekankan kepada kekuatan mentalnya dulu. Ketika sudah siap belajar, barulah dia masuk. Nah, ini yang bisa kita jadikan penelitian ke library research, sekali lagi mengenai teaching tekniknya. Oke, next slide please. Nah, ini adalah contoh beberapa daripada library research yang telah dilakukan di STKIP Kusuma Negara. Yang pertama adalah the use of number heads together in teaching reading comprehension. Nah, di sini melihat sebuah strategi ya atau metode mengajar, namanya adalah number heads. Jadi gimana number head tersebut itu diimplementasikan untuk mengajar reading comprehension. Contoh yang kedua masih dari STKIP Kusuma Negara, yaitu mengenai penerapan dari Flies Water Game in teaching vocabulary ya untuk siswa SMP Pilar Bangsa Tangerang. Nah, kenapa ini disebut dengan library research atau literature study? Karena dia menjadikan Flies Water Game ini sebagai subjek atau sebagai kata kunci yang harus dideskripsikan, dianalisis lebih jauh sampai di mana keberhasilannya sehingga siswa SMP itu bisa meningkat vocabulary-nya. Jadi lebih kepada mengulik ya. Mengulik itu artinya menelusuri lebih detail gitu mengenai Flies Water Game. Kemudian teman-teman semua juga bisa melakukan telaah kurikulum merdeka ya, seperti yang sudah saya sampaikan di awal. Apa sih keunggulan dari kurikulum merdeka ini, kemudian harapannya apa terhadap peserta didik, kemudian juga tenaga pendidik itu memiliki keleluasaan untuk menggunakan aplikasi ya, kemudian menggunakan media belajar yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan peserta didik. Jadi saya menekankan bahwa kurikulum merdeka ini memberikan independensi kepada tenaga pendidik untuk mengeksplor lebih jauh bagaimana mereka melakukan pengajaran terhadap peserta didiknya. Nah, yang terakhir adalah mengenai perkembangan media bahan ajar digital. Nah, ini menarik sekali ya, karena zaman juga sudah berubah, jadi teman-teman ketika akan melakukan penelitian untuk skripsinya, lebih baik ke arah ini, era digital gitu ya, kemudian juga dunia maya, kemudian juga aplikasi, terus juga ada keterampilan era 4.0 atau 5.0. Jadi jangan lagi teman-teman itu meneliti sesuatu yang old fashion atau sebetulnya sudah diteliti oleh orang banyak gitu. Jadi kita mencari kebaharuannya di sini, nah dengan mengikuti perkembangan zaman tadi. Oke, kemudian slide berikutnya. Sepertinya ini sih slide terakhir nih, sepertinya. Oh iya, benar sekali. Demikian teman-teman semua, terima kasih banyak. Saya kembalikan kepada moderator.
Baik, terima kasih Ibu Danti Pujiati M. Hum atas paparan yang luar biasa mengenai library research ya. Jadi library research ini adalah sebuah penelitian yang menggunakan pendekatan kualitatif dan sebetulnya library research ini tidak memerlukan si peneliti untuk terjun langsung ke lapangan, begitu ya Bu Danti ya. Data bisa digunakan tertulis ataupun tidak tertulis dan data diambil dari buku, artikel, karya ilmiah, rekaman, dan dokumen-dokumen yang terdokumentasikan dengan baik. Adapun ciri-ciri dari library research ini adalah peneliti berhadapan dengan naskah data yang berupa sumber sekunder, artinya bahwa peneliti mendapatkan data dari tangan kedua dan tidak dibatasi oleh ruang dan waktu. Yang terakhir, tujuan dari library research ini adalah persoalan penelitian tersebut hanya dapat dijawab melalui penelitian kepustakaan dan data pustaka menjawab pertanyaan penelitiannya. Baik, luar biasa sekali Ibu Danti, terima kasih atas waktunya. Untuk selanjutnya adalah sesi yang kedua yang nantinya akan dipandu oleh moderator kita Ibu Sari Astuti MPD. Kepada Ibu Sari. Oh, Ibu Sari sudah siap di kampus ya Bu Sari ya? Silakan Ibu Sari.
Terima kasih Bu Kokom. Alhamdulillah saya sudah sampai akhirnya. Ini mohon maaf juga saya harus menggunakan handphone Bapak Ibu. Karena ada masalah dengan laptop saya, jadi saya suruh istirahat dahulu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sebuah kehormatan bagi saya hari ini bisa menjadi moderator dari pembicara kita, ada Dr. Umi Rasyidah MPD, dosen dari Universitas Pasir Pangarayan. Ini jauh ya di Riau. Nah, ini saya lihat beliau masih sangat muda sekali, lahir tahun 87 tapi sudah bergelar doktor. Kemudian sudah memiliki banyak publikasi di sini. Salah satunya saya baca yang terbaru adalah Analysis of Teaching Writing Strategies yang saat ini masih berada dalam kondisi under review. Tanpa membuang banyak waktu kepada Dr. Umi Rasyidah MPD, Waktu saya persilahkan. Halo Ibu.
Halo Ibu Sari, can you listen to my voice?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, let me try to share the screen with all of you. Hopefully I can do that. I didn't have the option on my laptop. Could somebody else help me?
Okay, please the host.
Share screen.
Can you please help her?
Yes, Miss.
Okay.
Let me try again. Oh, yes. Well, good morning, everybody. This is a honor for me attending this webinar. As mentioned by both the Kaprodi, whether it is English study program Kaprodi or STKIP Kaprodi, this is our first collaboration or our project after signing the MOU. Thank you, Ibu Sari Astuti, as the moderator, and thank you also to Ibu Danti. This is a great lecture talking about studi pustaka, a kind of research which can be conducted in the pandemic. So to deal with the pandemic era, we need to deal with many obstacles when we are not able to do the field study. The other trend in education, also called as a case study, now we will learn, and I do believe that all students and the whole participants in this webinar are already familiar with the concept of case study. However, when talking about the definition of case study, mostly people will have different definition, because case study can be applied in sociolinguistic, can be applied in applied linguistics itself, can be applied in sociology, can be applied in management, and in many contexts. So now the question is how to conduct a case study in English language teaching. Okay, some intriguing questions comes to our mind when we talk about case study, whether it is a kind of quantitative or a qualitative one. Since our students have learned about the case study, and I am sure that fortunately they already know whether the case study is a part of qualitative one. Why? Because case study is qualitative in nature. We talk about data qualitative, we talk about data interview, we talk about data as a descriptive one, we talk about the special case and et al. Now, rather than talking about case study, whether it is time consuming or not, it depends on us. Because in case study, the concept is data saturation. When the data is saturated, we do not need to do a longer and to spend a longer time to do that. And some people also ever ask me whether the case study is suitable enough for S1 student or only appropriate for S2 students or for S3 students or doctoral students or for expert or someone around the world. The questions will be answered today during our webinar. So that I hope that after listening to this webinar, there is no more questions whether case study can be conducted by an undergraduate students. Let's move to the research tradition in general. Generally, we can differentiate between qualitative and quantitative research, right? When talking about sample, population, and sample, in quantitative, we have a large number of sample, we large number of population, which can be selected randomly, and it will be the representative of our population. While in qualitative, we talk about small number of population, but mostly in qualitative, we didn't use the term sample. We tend to use the term participant or subject or informant. And the subject will be selected because of we need them. So we call it as a purposive one. And then talking about the function of quantitative. The function of quantitative is to test their theory, differ from the qualitative one. We talk about how to immerse the theory into the practice. And the third, the findings of the quantitative research can be generalized into the other concept. Differently, qualitative, it is a contextual understanding. It can be applied only into a particular context. And talking about the instruments, how data collected, even we can use, for example, interview for both quantitative and qualitative data. In quantitative one, the interviews tend to be more close-ended or structured, while in qualitative one, we have an open-ended and semi-structured interview. And the third, talking about data, and the fifth, we talk about data. Mostly in quantitative, we talk about numerical and categorical data. We compare, we do the experiment, while in qualitative, we tend to use word, image, and analyze the audio. Now we come to the main session of what is a case study. Although I have mentioned that many definition is clearly given by the experts, there are some definition that largely point out what is a case study. According to Gold et al. In 2003, a case study is the in-depth study of instances of a phenomenon in its natural context and from the perspective of participants involved in the phenomena. While the second one I took from Merriam, this is a dictionary with Merriam-Webster. She said that the case study is the process of actually carrying out the investigation, the unit of analysis, the bounded system, the case, or the end of the product. Besides, we can clearly find the keywords of both definition given by the expert. First, we can see that the case study is trying to explain the causal links in real life situation. And the second one, there is a description of an intervention and the context in which it occurred when a particular case. In such a case, for example, a researcher could, evaluate the implementation of a new curriculum, or maybe a researcher tend to use or to analyze the new mode of teaching and online teaching. And maybe the researcher can evaluate the implementation of hybrid learning, which is the trend nowadays. So when talking about a case study, we didn't talk any longer about tracing the language development of a child or a particular group of learners. It has a big and a broad context. So talking about case study, everything, every subject, every context, every English skills research can be conducted through a case study. This is the concept that we have to have in our mind. While the purposes of the case studies, it can be used as a preliminary to major investigation. For example, a doctoral students have a kind of a pilot study, which is a kind of a case study. And then the second one, the other purpose of case study is probing deeply and analyzing intensively the multivariate phenomena. And then, of course, since the case study is a part of a qualitative one, it refutes a universal generalization. So we cannot make any generalization after we write a report of a case study. And then the last purpose of a case study is prefer when the relevant behaviors cannot be manipulated. When we talk about manipulated data, mostly we talk about how to do an experimental research. Now, let's talk about how to plan the case study. The design, the design of a case study has several components. Different expert will give a different stages or different components of a case studies. But here I took from Yin in 2003. She maintains that a case study design at least must following these features. First one is a case study should have an initial research questions. Whether we have who, what, where, when, and how must be clarified and stated succinctly before moving on to how and why. So in many case studies, the research question is in the form of how and why questions because the design of case study allows such questions to be addressed. And the second one, we talk about proposition. It is not a proposition, right? A proposition, typically reflects a theoretical orientation and points the researcher in the direction of where to look for the relevant data. For example, if a researcher wants to examine how the input of a learner has available influences his or her progress in English, the researcher later, of course, might examine the interaction this individual has in English classroom with their home activity or their community. And then the other features when we try to plan conducting a case study is a unit of analysis. This is central to case study is defining what the case is, whether we would like to see it is an individual case study or it is a group of learners or an intake classroom, a school, or we would like to see a case study of a program. The research questions should specify the boundaries of a case study. One of the unit of analysis has been defined, then the researcher, we as the researcher, can read studies on a similar case. And then the fourth is the logic linking the data of the proposition. One way to establish a link between the data and the proposition of the study is to look for the patterns. So later when we talk about case study, we also talk about the pattern in the data that might support our study proposition. Another example, if we as the researcher believe that the particular students' resistance to group work due to their cultural background, the researcher might look for evidence in the data gathered that supported this view and evidence that didn't support of it. So both the evidence with support and didn't support the evidence will be provided in the case of study. This endeavor, of course, of matching evidence to counter proposition in terms of pattern matching. And the last criteria is criteria for interpreting the findings. This component, has to do with establishing how much evidence is necessary to warrant a particular interpretation. Hopefully, by undertaking this pattern matching, a researcher, we as a researcher, will find that the one proposition is supported for more than an alternative proposition. Now talking about the sampling in a case study. Mostly, a case study applies non-probability sampling. Although in the beginning, I have mentioned that in case study, we also use the other term rather than sampling. We talk about the informant, we talk about the subject, we talk about, purposive and purposeful or criterion-based sampling. This is the way we select the targeted sampling in our case study. And then a source of evidence, this is the data in a case study, can come from documents. We can analyze the documents similar to the previous one. And then we also might analyze the interviews. This is the primary data, and also asking for participant or non-participant observation, and then artifacts, any documents that support the source of data. We can use it in a case study. So the trend or the criteria of a case study is using multiple sources. So not only one source used in a case study. And then the other principles of data collection, as I mentioned before, we use multiple sources of data. You know, it is poor study. It is a kind of a poor study that uses only one source of evidence, especially when we come up to a qualitative research. Most studies are capable of producing several sources. The use of multiple sources is the major strength of the case study approach. And the other function of doing or using multiple sources, it allows for triangulation through converging lines of inquiry, and also, improving the reliability and validity of the data and findings. And also, the corroboration makes a case study more convincing. And another important factors in carrying out a range of data collection methods, such as interviewing, observation, analysis report, survey, or questionnaires, is the competency of the researcher itself. So the more competent the researcher, the more convincing will be the sources. The second one, we have to see the chain of the evidence. It comes when the reader of a research report reading our case study report. They have to be able to trace the chain of our evidence, either it is from initial to the end or from the conclusion back to the initial research questions. So in a case study, as evidence should be built up from multiple sources if possible, and shown to be congruent or linear with the conclusions, like criminal investigation. So the evidence should be also be stated as specific observation and documents and interview stated. So we also provide this data in our research report. And the third is recording data. This is the third principle of data collection of a case study. We know that one side recording can raise sketchy notes. We can take notes while we interview someone or while we do the observation. However, the detail encoded can be reached through video or tape. You know, if a few notes are taken at the same time, it will be imperative that full notes to be written up soon as possible after the observation, in view of fallibility of human memory. So we cannot rely more on our note, on our sketch, because our memory is limited. A useful way to aid later our recall is to focus observation on a specific person, and also interaction or activity that we would like to see. And also, we have to not key the words and actions, concentrate on the first and last remarks in each conversation. If we would like to see, for example, a classroom interaction, a teacher's explanation in the classroom, and so on. Okay, this is another example of a case study, writing by Ilona Lecky in 1995. The title of the case study research is Coping Strategies of ESL Students in Writing Tasks Across the Curriculum. You know, this is one clear example of case study research. In this study, Lecky, you know, the writer, as with most qualitative research, began with a general research questions. she was concerned with how ESL students acquire the writing forms needed for their academic discipline, and how their experience in their non-ESL courses help them to shape their acquisition of these forms. And also, in the tradition of qualitative research, she gathered a variety of data, including notes, students' journal, classroom observations, and all of the students' written material. However, unlike ethnographic, because ethnographic and case study are two different research methods, the study completed only in one semester. So for those who say that case study should be a long research, it is not true any longer. We can conduct a case study within a semester. We can conduct a study within, for example, 2 months, and so on. Depends on our context. And then finally, we can also see in this case study research writing by Lecky, she focused on only 5 target students. So we talk about small number of participants. We can access the article from Lecky in this. Okay, I cannot click the hyperlink. Sorry, and maybe you can try to read this case study by yourself later. We still analyze the Lecky's case study, because as I mentioned before, this is the best that I can find in a term of case research, in case study research. Before we come to review the research conducting by Lecky, we have several concepts, we have several aspects that we are going to understand comprehensively. First, talking about the research questions. Since this is a kind of research article, you know, the study does not list an explicit research question, but we can directly found out the research in the introduction section. The study here focus on how 5 EFL students cope with the academic writing demands they have in their classes across the curriculum during their first semester of the study. So the research, when we write the report of our case study, we may do the implicit research questions, and we can also do and we may also write an explicit research question. And the second one, we talk about in what context was the research by Lecky conducted. This is, we can find out in the next section. The study was conducted at a large state university in the United States of America. And the third, we talk about participants. Who were the participants in the study? How were they selected? What were their relevant characteristics? By reading the articles, we initially found out that 60 students volunteered to be part of the study. However, Lecky only chose participants or students who had no previous experience with the U.S. educational institution and were enrolled in courses that require a significant amount of writing. So we can see that Lecky has a specific criteria. And then she also selected the students that represented differences in gender, home country, different home country, different year in school, and academic subject area. So the participant, after reading this article, only 5 students, were 3 were graduate students, and the rest 2 undergraduate students. And then talking about the theoretical orientation, although we know that every article has their own way of presenting their paper, here we also didn't find a specific section that specified the theoretical orientation of the study. However, in introductions, the author already set up for an information assumption that informs the study. And then the role of the researchers. In this case study, Lecky was not a participant of the study because he was not one of the students' instructor. Rather, her role was to interview the students, and then she observed the classes, and also she examined the students' written work. And talking about the data collection procedure, whether how much time was spent collecting the data, we can see that the Lecky only need 1 semester. So the feasibility of conducting case study is high, you know, because we only need 1 semester. In 1 semester, we can come to the field, we collect the data, and then after the 6 months, we analyze the data and go to the seminar hasil or final exam or final defense. And Lecky in this article also interviewed each of 5 students only once a week for most of the semester. According to some experts, where we would like to interview a person, at least we have 3 days between one interview to the second interview to avoid bias and also the falling memorability of a human. And then we talk about data analysis, how the data were analyzed in Lecky's research. He used an analytic induction in which she repeatedly examined the data she gathered in order to discover some recurring pattern. So the concept is the pattern. After we interview the students, we collect all the data, we see the pattern. This inductive process led her to delineate various coping strategies that the students use to deal with the academic writing demands they face. This also includes such strategies such as relying on the past writing experience, looking for models, accommodating teachers' demands, and resisting teacher demands. So by examining how each students use some or all of these strategies, she highlighted how individual students deal with their academic writing demands in different ways. As a conclusion, Lecky concludes that ESL students studied already come to the university with some very well developed strategies for dealing with the academic writing demands, and that furthermore, they were able to alter these strategies to adopt new ones when it is necessary. Her conclusion also were well supported by the data she gathered from the interviews with the target student. So different from quantitative one, in a case study as a qualitative research, we cite the interviewer response as our data in a finding section. And then talking about the contribution, whether the study has a contribution to our study or our knowledge of social or contextual factors in second language learning, of course, yes. She explicitly mentioned that students use the strategy they already had to cope with the demands of their writing assignment. So the students knew how to draw on what they knew to meet the writing requirements of a specific context. And then the last is talking about the implication of core teaching, because we talk about English language teaching research. Of course, we talk about the implication of research in teaching area. Lecky also in his research argued that because the students in her study had well develop written strategies that they have brought with them from their previous writing experience, instructors in ESL classes should attempt to build on the strategies students already have and not spend time to teach new strategies. So she also argues that because writing demands differ across disciplines, the ESL teachers need to teach students general strategies that they can adopt to various social contexts. If our student can access this research, we might analyze it together. This is another qualitative research, particularly a case study written by Kayapon, Semsok, Jirapon, and Ratinikon, talking about an analysis of errors in written English sentences, a case study of Thai EFL students. You can read this paper later, and we can discuss it together. And we know that case study can be conducted in English language teaching, whether it is in the areas of reading, in the areas of writing skill, listening, speaking, literature, and others. There is no limitation of conducting case studies in ELT context. We can also read some inspirational projects differ from Ibu Danti previously, who mentioned the work of the students. I am here tend to use and tend to provide some inspirational project from the other author around the world. First is from Joseph. He talked about challenges in assessing character education in ELT. So we talk about the hot topic nowadays, talking about the character education. So we will not select any old-fashioned theme or topic to be our next research project. And the second one, this is also another good topic, talking about online, using online computer games in ELT classroom, also a kind of case study. And the third, developing critical classroom practice for ELF communication, a Taiwanese case study of ELT material evaluation. This is one of the research conducted in the area of speaking skills. And then we also have a survey on the level of questioning of ELT, a case study in Indonesian tertiary education. And then applying role-playing strategy to enhance a learner's writing and speaking skills. The two combination of skills addressed by the three authors, talking about writing and speaking skill in EFL courses using Facebook and Skype as our learning tools. And then we also have students' perceptions of the use of a YouTube channel specifically designed for an academic speaking still in speaking skills. And then ESL learners' writing skills, problems, factors, and suggestions. And the last, we have understanding university students' peer feedback practices in EFL writing, insight from a case study. So any case study can be conducted in any theme, in any topic, in English language teaching. I think that's all my presentation today. I will return the floor to the moderator. Thank you.
Cannot unmute. Oh, thank you. Finally. Thank you very much, Dr. Umi Rashida, for a very inspiring presentation about case study here. I myself, personally, I already taken note of some questions come. So I myself have 3 questions over here, but beforehand, let me check whether the participants also have the questions. Let me check the chat box. Okay, maybe not yet. Okay, participants, you may also raise your hands, of course, using the expression over here if you have questions dealing with case study. So while waiting for the participants asking questions, let me go first, okay, Dr. Umi, is it okay? Questions from me? Sure, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one, it's quite interesting about conducting case study, and especially you said before that it's possible also to have this research in a doctoral degree. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of inspiring myself also. So the first questions is about the data saturation. So in one hand, you say that you don't need to take too much time to conduct case study, but on the other hand, we need what we call as data saturation. I need like a more clarification about what does it mean by data saturation, and then in minimum time, in how much time minimally that we can conduct this research and make sure that this data is saturated enough. So I'm thinking that saturation means that, okay, it's jenuh. Am I right? It's kejenuhan data when we say in Bahasa Indonesia. And the second one, in Kusuma Negara, like students mostly conduct action research. And then there is what we call as a triangulation data, right? So it means the data should be taken from three different sources. Is it also must be done in a case study? Should we minimally take the data from these three sources? And then the third one, this is the last one from me, okay? Because you said before, for the participants, we can take not only like group of people, but also an individual. So can we take data from an individual? For example, after listening to your presentation, I remember a very unique case of my friends that, yes, it's been weeks. I was planning, I plan to have this person as I want to do research on this person. And only one person. The data of this person will be taken from different sources by conducting interview. But it's about one person. Is it possible to conduct this one in the typical of case study? So only for one participant. I think that's all, Dr. Umi. Thank you very much. Let me start first. Okay.
Miss Sari, there are two questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I've already read. Okay. Which one, Dr. Umi, which one do you prefer? I mention all the questions first, or you want to answer my questions first? Already three questions from me.
Okay.
So,
let me try to collect the whole question first.
oh, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay. So, there is another question from Miss Fenty. This question is for Ibu Danti and Dr. Umi at the same time. The question is how to formulate research questions. For Bu Danti is in the form of library research, dan bagaimana membuat research questions in library research and in a case study, and how these two kinds of questions different in terms of language formulation, I think. And the second one is from the audience kepada Bu Danti. Berapa lama biasanya proses literatur research? Karena tentunya ketika penelitian membutuhkan banyak reference. Atau apakah ada kiat untuk literatur research agar pengerjaannya efektif dan efisien? Terima kasih. Halo Ibu Danti. Halo Ma'am.
Halo.
Oke.
Halo, Miss Sari.
Oke, so dua pertanyaan untuk Ibu ya. Yang pertama, how to formulate research questions. Jadi bagaimana membuat formulasi research questionnya di library research. And the second one, berapa lama waktu yang diperlukan untuk conducting library research. Dan pertanyaannya, gimana caranya supaya efektif dan efisien. Karena harus baca banyak nih kayaknya. Saya pikir itu dahulu ya. So, siapa dulu yang akan menjawab? Is it from Dr. Umi or Dr. Danti? Let me give a chance to Dr. Danti first, Ibu Danti.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would like to try to answer the question from Ibu Fenty. Yeah. How to formulate research questions. I think you may begin with the W word questions. Yeah. And then, especially for library research, it begins with how. Because using how, the answers will be in a descriptive way, which is the objective of library research is to describe phenomena, is to describe somebody perspective, as well as to describe about the research method, something like that. So I highlight, Ibu Fenty, that the question usually begin with how. That's the answer for the first questions, and then now berapa lama? Biasa berapa lama? Nah, berapa lama? It also depends with the aims of the research, ya. The aim of the research. If you are going to do with deep and also with a detail, ya, it takes longer time usually. But if you limit, ya, if you limit your subject, or you limit your keywords, it can be shorter. I mean, the time that you use for doing the research, it can be shorter. So it depends on the aim, yeah, or the objective of your research. And then after that, it's about the quantity, ya, jumlah, the quantity of a keyword, jumlah dari kata kunci, or jumlah daripada subject that you are going to analyze. And then after that, apakah ada kiat, ya, untuk literatur research agar pengerjaannya efektif dan efisien? Oke, ini udah kayak ini ya, nanya kiat ya.
Tips and trick.
Apa ya? udah gregetan gitu, udah pingin nulis ini, udah pingin nulis penelitian ya. Jadi nanya kiat. Oke, jadi kiat ini ya seperti tips and trick ya. Jadi kita sesuaikan kita, ya, kita kelebihannya di mana gitu. Kemudian kalau memang ingin melakukan literatur research, pastikan Anda itu tipe yang tekun, ya. Jadi saya kembalikan lagi kepada researchersnya dulu nih ya. Kemampuan seorang researchersnya itu apakah Anda tipe yang tekun gitu ya. Karena library research ini dia berhubungan dengan benda mati, dengan naskah gitu ya, dengan dokumen. Nah, kalau dia bukan tipe yang hati-hati, yang tekun, sebaiknya ini dihindari. Begitu. Karena nanti akan mengalami kejenuhan yang tadi dibilang dengan saturated ya. Saturated itu artinya jenuh. Nanti akan mengalami kejenuhan. Jadi kalau saya menekankan kepada kiatnya itu adalah kembali kepada si karakteristik dari researcher itu sendiri gitu. Ketika dia memang sudah cocok dengan library research gitu ya, atau dengan kajian pustaka. Nah, itu dipastikan dulu gitu ya, kajian pustakanya kira-kira berapa lama akan selesai. Nah, itu bergantung kepada researchernya, begitu. Karena kalau data itu sudah melimpah ruah ya, bagaimana kita menganalisis data tersebut. Oke, I think that's all, Ibu Sari dan Ibu Umi ya. Thank you so much.
Okay. So that's quite clear. Sangat jelas sekali ya, Bu Danti. the keywords is rajin ya Bu Dati for library research, rajin dan tekun. Yeah, so never ask about the instant way to conduct library research. Okay, so let me move to Ibu Umi. There will be another questions, but then I'll give a chance for Dr. Umi to answer the questions first.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Sari Astuti. There are 3 questions coming from you directly. As one of the keynote speakers today, talking about a case study. The first talking about data saturated. A bit intriguing between data saturation and length of time we needed for conducting a case study, right? And the second one also talking about data sources, and the third talking about an individual, whether it is enough an individual to be the participant of our single case study. Okay, let me start from the last questions, whether an individual participant is good enough, is scientific enough to be our source of data. Talking about, let me talk about the definition first. When we talk about the definition of the case study, it clearly stated that the social phenomena or the current phenomena that we explore in terms of an individual, can be a group, or can be a group of learners or a group of people. So the term whether one is enough or not, yes, directly.
Yes.
Enough.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have an experience of conducting a case study in which the participants only one. This is for my doctoral, my dissertation for my doctoral degree.
Okay, so I must learn from you then.
We can share
each
open
other. Open consultation, Dr. Umi, for me.
In the beginning, you know, in conducting a case study, we have a specific criteria of our participant. So after setting up the criteria, I found that there were 8 participants, which is suitable to be participated in my study. However, after I deliver a consent letter, 4 of them say that they couldn't join, they couldn't be my participant due to the time conflicting. So I only have a candidate for the participant. And then after interview for the first time, because in a case study we need data saturation, which means 1 time of interview is not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. So when I tried when I arranged the second interview, the other 3 participants said that they cannot join another interview. So the only participant I had at the time, only 1.
Okay.
Only 1 participant, and it is enough for a case study. So how about the length of time? How many times of interviews should be conducted to have a rigorous data, to have a rich data? We have to go back to our objective of the study, what we would like to look for. Whether we would like to find, for example, the way a teacher teaches his students in hybrid learning. So what kind of aspect in a limitation we set up? So if we, for example, only focus on hybrid learning from blah, blah, blah to blah, 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 or in the certain topic of materials, so it doesn't need a longer time, right? We can do that. In, for example, just 4 weeks. Is it possible to conduct a case study in 4 weeks? Because case study no longer talking about language development as we did in the past decade. Any subject, any theme, can be conducted in a case study form. Depend on us as the researcher. And the third question, talking about multiple data sources, of course we need this. This is the power of qualitative data. We have multiple data sources, which is the one of the function is for triangulation of our data. So after having one-time response from the participant, we cannot claim directly that this response is the valid one until we clarify again and again to the participants. So when the best time to clarify it again to the target participant, according to some expert, at least we need an interval time, which is 3 days. So after 3 days, we as a researcher might again ask the participant about the same thing with the different diction, for example. So this is to help us. This is the best way to help us to gather a lot of data from our participants. I think that's all the answer from me, Ibu Sari, for the three of your questions.
Thank you so much.
Have, another deep interaction after this, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So I have your contact number anyway. Okay, now question from the participants. Okay, now
from Penti, right? For Bu Penti Mawani, talking about how to formulate research question in a case study. Similar to the previous one, I might also say that in case study, we have mostly talking about how and why something occurred in a social life. The research question can be started by how and why, not who and where. Who and where just as a supporting data when you provide the findings in your case research report. Yeah. So the report is how and why. So any questions which begins with how and why can be analyzed through a case study. Okay, I think that's all the case study. Okay, another question.
2 more questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Another questions. Okay. Let me check from the chat box, ma'am. Okay. It's from Bapak Wisnu Kala Kusumajati. Izin bertanya, adakah tool analysis data kualitatif untuk jenis riset library or case study? So maybe it's for Bu Umi. He said, okay. And so this is the tool analysis for the case study. And then the second question is it's from the audience. Terkait case study, bagaimana kita bisa melihat case yang akan kita ambil untuk menjadi bahan research kita itu tepat? Okay, so whether the case is appropriate enough for us to be conducted as a research. Jadi jangan-jangan it's only a slight idea. Jadi being hesitate whether it's qualified enough to be a case study or not. So yeah, time is yours.
Okay. The first question talking about the tools for case study. Bapak, one of the popular tool that we can use for analyzing the data in a case study called NPPO, but me myself hadn't have any experience in using NPPO, but mostly we can use NPPO to analyze the study in a case study. For qualitative data, we can use NPPO. And also in transcribing, because in analyzing the data in case study, before we analyze the data itself, we need to transcribe the data into the written form if it is from recording, video recording, or audio recording. So we can use many tools which can help us to transcribe them. You can access with a free tools to transcribe data and something like that. Many tools. And you can also ask a professional to help you transcribing the data for analysis. And it is allowed in a case study. And the second question talking about how to see, how to select the right topic to be
The right topic, yeah, is simply a right topic
for our case study project. First of all, a case study project, we have, first of all, we have to go back to the researcher itself. What we would like to see. This is rely more on our belief. After we have a good consensus in our mind, whether, for example, a teacher in hybrid learning tends to be lazy to prepare their material. For example, we have this kind of belief in our mind. So after we have this belief, we try to find out the reference. So this is different from the other type of research, especially from quantitative one. When we start our research from the problem firstly, but in case study we can come up firstly from our belief, and then we find out the reference, the suitable references with us, whether it is support our claim or not. So this matching pattern will help us to build our new belief, whether our first belief is really supported by the other research finding, the previous research findings. I think this is the
it's a kind of challenging our assumption. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
So challenging our assumption about certain things, a certain phenomena that we find in our reality, and then we take it we have a assumption, and then we challenge by checking to the previous researchers and the theory, and then when we do this research and then we match between this assumption and the previous research, we will come to a certain conclusion, which is can be it changed our previous assumption, or it will how to say this, a kind of confirming that our assumption is right or wrong. So
yes.
I simply make that kind of conclusion from this one. But it's, to be honest, it's a very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting about case study. It's been like long time ago I conduct this type of research, but then I start to think about what about if I make the other case study, since I met certain very unique things about my friends, and like he is a English teacher, but he has no like formal background of English education, but he is really a very qualified one, in my opinion. So I was wondering, wow, this is a very unique one. So after listening to your presentation, I start thinking about what about if I try to rise this topic, this phenomena, into kind of research. Thank you, Dr. Umi. Let's continue our interaction behind the screen.
Okay.
I know, while waiting for, wait a minute, Miss Grace, how much time we still have right now? So, Miss Grace?
Yes.
As the main, do we still have time?
Yes, we still have time, maybe until 11 ya Pak Wisnu, until we close the webinar, Miss.
So until 11. Okay, thank you. Okay, while waiting for the other questions, I've read your profile before, Dr. Umi. You've been to Northern Illinois University as joining sandwich program. While waiting for the other question, why don't you just share your experience? What kind of program is that? Yeah. Is it a lecturer program? Wow, this is an experience. How long did you spend your time there, and then what did you do? Maybe this story also can inspire us as a lecturer, and also for the students who watch this presentation. Yeah, please.
The story began when I was the sixth semester at my doctoral degree at Universitas Negeri Malang. There is there is a program for the Indonesian Ministry of Education calling sandwich program, which I'm still enrich our capacity in writing for publication. So the aim is to help us to be brave enough, to confident enough to write for an international publication. So I applied for joining the program, and then fortunately I passed the interview session and also the other test, which is conducted by the committee. And I went to Illinois for 3 months. And what I did there was, we're first having an intensive coaching with the expert and the second one, we have also intensive class every week. We have a class for writing publication. We also join some Brownback seminar every week, every Friday.
Every week.
All of the program were made to support our writing skills. Unfortunately, I have to admit that my writing skills is not as good as I expected yet, but this program really helped me to write well. So this program is only for doctoral students who already for who has already joined seminar proposal. But after 2019, this program is not available any longer because of COVID-19 pandemic, which spread around the world. So we might not go everywhere. We have you have a limited chance to visit another country. So the government stopped the program for 2020 and for 2000 until today, I guess. But hopefully, when Ibu Sari later join this program, the government already opened the program for you.
Inshallah.
And you can participate in. Yeah, you might choose any country, honestly, not only America. You might choose England, you might choose New Zealand, Australia, and others. You may also go to
inshallah,
Europe.
hopefully I will be as lucky as you, ma'am.
Amin.
Okay, nice to know you. So the MC already told me that we can close this presentation, this session, okay, because there is no more question from the participants. Thank you so much, Dr. Umi. Thank you so much, Dr. Danti, for delivering such inspiring presentation today about library research and case study research. I believe that there are a lot of things that we can study from this presentation, the previous presentation. Before I close this presentation, this session, so let me share the conclusion as a second moderator for Dr. Umi. So let me conclude that case study can be done in short time or long term. It depends on your context of situation and depends on the participants you have. And then I note these 3 points of case study that we have to highlight. The first one is about please concern on the unit of analysis and the logic linking the data to the proposition, your assumption previously, and then the criteria to assess whether you already do this kind of research successfully or not. And then in case study, you should take a non-probability sampling, and then you have to use, of course, different types of source of data to strengthen the result of your study. I think that's enough from me, and then hopefully we can conduct this case study in our research for the lecture and for the students. And then I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for Dr. Umi and Dr. Danti. Hopefully we can still interact after this, behind the screen. Inshallah. See you again, Dr. Umi, and then I'll move this session to the MC, Miss Grace. Hello?
Yes, Miss Sari, thank you. Okay, so all Zoom participants, we are now in the end of our webinar sessions. It's been a wonderful session for myself because we get to learn new type of research methodology, and I hope all of my college fellows, saya harap teman-teman semua juga mendapatkan ilmu yang sangat berguna hari ini, apalagi untuk kita yang sedang menuju masa penyiapan skripsi, agar kita dapat mengetahui, memilih, dan juga menjalankan penelitian kita dengan sebaik-baiknya. And thank you to all the lecturers, Ibu Dr. Umi Rashida MPD, and also Ibu Danti Pujianti M. Hum, and also all the moderators, Ibu Kokom Nurjana MPD, and Ibu Sari Astuti MPD. It's been a pleasure to hear the great knowledge today from you all. And before we close, it's not complete without taking up pictures, aren't we? So please turn on your camera to all the participants. Yang bisa membuka kameranya, boleh tolong dibuka sebentar. Kita akan ambil sebentar untuk sesi foto sebagai kenang-kenangan, karena yang mungkin kita bawa hanya bisa foto yang bisa disimpan dan juga dilihat-lihat. Nanti kita ingat, oh saya belajar library research and case study di foto ini. Oke, terima kasih yang sudah membuka kameranya. Yang belum masih saya tunggu. Please open up. Yes. Dan jangan lupa untuk mengisi daftar hadir. Teman-teman rekan di UPP dan juga di STKP Kusuma Negara untuk mengisi daftar hadir. Dan juga mengklik link untuk join di grup Telegram untuk yang menginginkan e-sertifikat. Jangan lupa untuk mengisi nama dengan tepat, sesuai nanti akan dicetak. Kalau salah-salah A, I, E, O, itu yang dicetak nanti. Jadi pastikan data yang dimasukkan dengan tepat. Oke, baik kalau begitu saya akan ambil foto. I'm sorry, I will take only the video participants only ya. The non-video participant will be automatically, karena saya klik hide non-video ya, jadi yang tidak membuka video berarti tidak akan tercapture. Jadi jangan lewatkan kesempatan ini. Baik, sudah bertambah lagi. Terima kasih, thank you. Okay, even though you are wearing mask, please show your best smile, say cheers. Oh, masih bertambah lagi. Sekali lagi, mohon maaf karena ada yang baru buka kamera, Bapak Ibu. Ya, 1, 2, 3, cheers. Okay, another one please, because there are 2 screens on my laptop. Please hold your smile. We don't know which part of screen you are in my laptop. Okay, terima kasih, thank you for all the participants, to all lecturers, kepada semua Bapak Ibu yang sudah menyempatkan waktu untuk menghadiri webinar kita pada pagi hari ini. Dan waktu sudah menunjukkan pukul 10.52, hanya waktu saja memang yang memisahkan kita. Semoga kita bisa berjumpa di kesempatan berikutnya, webinar berikutnya, ilmu-ilmu menarik dan baik yang berikutnya. Jangan bosan-bosan untuk mendengarkan promosi-promosi berupa link-link Zoom berikutnya. We all pray that the pandemic will be over soon, but this Zoom things is become our new habit. It's probably a new research ya, Miss Sari ya, we can make a new research on that. How is Zoom affecting our life as a college student? Probably. Oke, saya sebagai MC Gracie Hombing undur diri dan mengucapkan terima kasih atas nama semua panitia acara ini. Terima kasih untuk kehadirannya. Salam sehat untuk kita semua, salam semangat bagi yang sedang mengadakan penelitian, and looking forward to our bright future. Good day everyone.
Terima kasih Grace, terima kasih semua. Saya izin live ya.
Baik, terima kasih.
Terima
kasih, Bu Tanti.
Thank you, Bu
Ya,
Tanti.
izin ya, izin live.
Dari
Terima kasih Bu Vera.
ya sudah Miss Pipit. Thank you Miss Pipit. Thank you.
Thank you all.